When Minecraft updates the game, world generation usually doesn't stay the same. This makes it clear to see which of these two identical seeds was loaded up in 1.20 and which one was 1.21, because this one has a big new structure, which is fun. However, you can find these 1.21 features in your existing world. It's not going to be the exact same, of course, but there is something you really need to watch out for. Otherwise, instead of getting a trial chamber that looks like this, you'll have a trial chamber that looks like this. This is my Let's Play world, and this is a fate that might come to you if you don't watch out. So why does this happen? What can you do to avoid it? And how do you find trial chambers in existing worlds after 1.21 comes out? This is a big update question, and so let's answer it. And let's start with the first one. Why does this happen? And it basically comes down to Minecraft not caring what version you opened up a world in. Outside of marketplace maps, which are version locked, Minecraft has no clue or really caring about what version of the game you decided to make a Minecraft world in. Whether it was 1.20 or the start of Bedrock or TU1 like me, Minecraft doesn't care what version of the game your terrain generated in. It just cares when new terrain needs to be loaded in, and it does so according to the version of the game it's currently in. In other words, it will use the latest version, assuming you're not going back into time to an old one, and so whenever a new chunk is generated after the Tricky Trials comes out, it will do so according to that update's world generation, and so can include the trial chambers. This is where the explanation would stop for most updates, but because the trial chambers are really big, they take place over a huge number of chunks, and because they are in the subsurface levels, which have only existed since 1.18, things are more complicated. But long story short, when you've already explored a chunk somewhere between 1.18 and 1.20, and then you explore the chunks next to it in 1.21, if those chunks happen to contain a trial chamber, you'll find one which looks like this instead of one which looks like this, which sounds bad, but it could be worse. You could find one that looks like this. There's nothing here, it's just deep slate. Trial chambers are an objective upgrade to your world, and so you should try not to have this happen unless for some reason you specifically want to have no trial chamber in a place because you're digging a tunnel at around Y-20 and you don't want there to be any vaults or trial spawners that you have to mine out of the way. But outside of that very niche case, you don't want this to happen, so what can you do to avoid it? So the answer to this one is simple. Don't explore any chunks you haven't already been in, but it's a bit more complicated to explain where you have and haven't explored, because you might assume that if you can see terrain, then it has been explored. This is how it used to be true for Minecraft if you played Java or Console Edition, but it's not how Bedrock counts exploration. In fact, I can look at a biome right now, like that jungle, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it has been explored. This is a very weird concept, and basically it boils down to the fact that Minecraft will show you terrain that hasn't been loaded in yet, and even though it's showing me there's a jungle there right now, if I never step foot in that jungle, and then 1.22 comes out and it replaces all jungles with volcanoes, then I would not see a jungle over there, but instead a volcano. Minecraft is showing me both the terrain that we know exists because I've been there and placed cactuses into the sky, or, a giant nether wall, or, a giant statue of myself, or any of these things that I have placed. Obviously will stay there till the end of time, but it will also show me things that it thinks is there based on how the seed will generate. This is actually really clever, but it has a second layer when you consider that half of the world, or at least the bottom 64 blocks of it, actually generated after 1.18 came out. And this is significant because it means that although these chunks were generated all the way back in TU1 or TU5 to be precise, even though this whole jungle was generated in 1.8.2 in the Java edition, I can go below it and I can find features from much later than that. This is a mine I spent dozens of hours mining for diamonds in back in 2012, and because I did that, all of the breaking blocks and finding diamonds, all of these chunks were solidified back in the 2012 Minecraft World Gen. That means that even after fossils came out, I wouldn't be able to find any here because they wouldn't be able to generate into these chunks. However, 1.18 did something really unprecedented, and it took the bottom 64, or it took the bottom of your world at Y0, converted all of the bedrock into deep slate, and then generated another 64 blocks of terrain below that. That means that this chunk right here that I'm standing in has terrain which is from 2012, and then directly below it terrain which is from 2022, a full 10 years later. But what this also means is that there are a bunch of chunks in your world, and in my world specifically, but in your world too if you've been playing since before 1.18, that will have some terrain on the surface, but if you haven't revisited them after 1.18, you can still find some brand new features below them. To give you an example of this, I wanted to, I decided to test something quite interesting, which is I decided to see where the nearest trial chamber would be to my world. I've explored thousands and thousands of blocks in every direction from my spawn, as much as 20,000 blocks to the south and something like 10,000 blocks to the north, and so I figured I would have to go a really long way to find a trial chamber. But what you might find interesting is that actually the closest trial chamber to spawn on my seed, according to Chunkbase, actually still will generate, because despite it being found right over here, so just to show you on my map, it's found right over here in my taiga forest biome, which is next to a jungle, next to my big flat land. For whatever reason, apparently I haven't been in these chunks since 2022. That is quite surprising to me, because I feel like I spend enough time there, but I haven't been within 4 chunks of this area, which means that a trial chamber is still able to generate there, despite it being one of the oldest parts of my world, all the way back to the Xbox One edition, when the boundary from my 360 world got smashed. And so here's an interesting experiment, right? Here is one. I'm going to take 2 copies of this world that I'm in right now, which is already a copy, so I've got 2 copies of this world. One of these I will do absolutely nothing in. I'll leave it how it is right now after I made that discovery. And for the other one, what I'll do is I'll be the person that you should aim not to be, and I'll go and explore new chunks that I haven't been in yet. I'm going to go to places that I haven't previously seen, and one of those places is going to be this taiga biome, where I've heard that there might just be, if I'm really lucky, there might just be access to a trial chamber below here. I actually think it's found closer to the roof forest over here, which is, you know, it's a lovely biome too, very similar wood colors, but right over here I'm going to explore in 1.20, whereas in the other world I did not do precisely that. What are the results like when you upgrade to 1.21? Well, this is easily found out, because even before updates come out, you can still experience the features either via the experimental toggle or by just downloading the preview, and so let's take both of these copies over there. On the seed where I did nothing, interestingly, I got a trial chamber. But it's not an ordinary trial chamber. There's quite a few signs of that, but it's particularly clear when we go into the first trial room, where as you can see, there's this giant chunk of deep slate over there, and a similar one right next to it. Why are these here? It's because I have been through, or at least I've been within 4 chunks, or within my simulation distance to be precise, of these areas right here, and so this generated all the way back in 1.18 or 1.19, or it could have been as recently as yesterday, but this had already generated, and so it's locked in stone forever to be one of these without doing specific chunk deletion, which I don't really recommend to anyone. And so that means that this is what my trial chamber looks like. It's missing a few key ingredients, but it does still have the trial spawners. But something interesting, I don't know if this is a wider bug or if it's something to do with a partial. Also, wait, look at this right here. I would have had an ominous vault, but I don't have an ominous vault because of the fact that this chunk has perfectly destroyed it. Also, I don't know why for sure this is, but all of my trial spawners, even the ones that aren't partially destroyed, because, you know, this one right here, I could understand, maybe it lost some blocks, so it lost some of its data, but this spawner right over here too, if we give it a quick glance, this one is nowhere near a destroyed chunk, but yet also does not generate with any mobs inside of it, and so I just have a really decent, easy source of copper. That'll be handy after the update comes out, but I'm still slightly confused about what it's all doing here. Also, why there happens to be skeletons generating. So this is what it looks like when we haven't done anything. Oh wait, actually, you can also see, I want to get a firework out right here. I want to see what's in that cave. Yeah, look at this. If you, this is a fun combination of structures, but this is the entirety of the trial chamber. There's one ominous spawner that did survive, or one ominous vault that has survived, and 2 regular spawners, and everything else is just gone. Although I'm not sure. Oh, this does work. So I get 1 ominous vault for my efforts, but if I do decide to explore new chunks, shockingly, apparently there's still a trial chamber here, and it looks almost identical to the previous one. This is very, very strange. It still has the trial. Actually, it's a different orientation too. Wait, what? That is more confusing to me. Is there some randomness in how these structures generate? But as you can see right here, it is the same trial chamber with the same spawner over there, and there would be the same spawner over there, but we've got even more chunks that have been destroyed. Weirdly, this leads to a button generating on a deep slate wall. There's nothing as sad as what we're looking at right here. There's a button that just goes to nowhere because the rest of this hasn't generated. I am surprised that even this amount of trial chamber can still be found. This is very, very close to where I was on the surface, but Minecraft decided not to load the chunks down there. Maybe I wasn't close enough to to it down below the surface. It clearly decided to generate this time, but anyway, the point here is clear. The more you explore, the more of your trial chambers will go missing, and even if it's just one chunk of a trial chamber, that might be a critical chunk that connects multiple bits together, making it very hard to actually find the rest. It's hard to be certain for most people if there's more trial chambers here, and so let's do this same test again, but with another one. I decided to look around for a second trial chamber to see if this was a consistent result or what caused it, and you can see something even more interesting happened with this trial chamber, which as you can see loaded into existingly generated chunks, but something even weirder happened, which is that it loaded into existing chunks but then still decided to generate just slightly offset from the previous version of itself. Here is that same fountain that is meant to exist up there, but because it partially generated in this chunk and then failed, I'm guessing the other chunk just saw it as not generated because of something weird going on there, and so decided to try again, but some blocks deeper. It's hard to be exactly sure what's going on here, but this is two bits of a trial chamber that are connected, but one chunk removed, not just horizontally, but vertically as well. Trying to find your way around these structures is a nightmare, and it's one of the big reasons why you probably shouldn't partially explore trial chambers unless you love this effect, which I'll be honest, there's a part of me that does. But yeah, the now final question I guess we should ask is how should you look for trial chambers if you have a pre-1.21 world? There is an easy answer to this question, but first allow me to answer the people who have been listening this whole time like, you know what, I don't care about the trial chambers, which is a wild opinion for an update called Tricky Trials. I don't care about the trial chambers, I just want to know about the rest of 1.21. Can I experience those features on my old world? And the answer is yes. Any feature that isn't new biome or new structure dependent can be found in existing worlds, so you can craft a crafter if you just have the ingredients. You can find a bogged in your swamps and mangrove swamps if you happen to have both those biomes around, but this mangrove swamp, which I believe is the other half of a biome that I destroyed after 1.19 came out. I seem to have a history of destroying structures and biomes when they come to Minecraft, huh? But this mangrove swamp right here is interestingly enough a place that I came to via the Nether, and I chopped down the mangrove wood, a ridiculous amount of it, and then I left, and I haven't explored the areas around it, which makes it perfect for looking for a trial chambers because we're 5,000 blocks away from spawn, yet still easily accessible via the Nether. I'm 5,000 blocks away from spawn, and so I know that any direction I search is going to load up new chunks after the update, which means that if I looked around here very quickly, I'm sure I would find a trial chamber. I would use the locate command, but I don't want to spoil this myself. I feel like this is one of my best bets if I'm looking for a new trial chamber, and if you want to do precisely the same in your world, find something similar, an area that maybe you've built some transport connections to, but you've never really explored because you're there for one specific reason. Another example of this in my world might be an ancient city that's 10,000 blocks from spawn. Another example for you might be any project that you started but kind of gave up on. You know, these sorts of things that you've gone to but haven't really explored are great jumping off points to build your tunnels, because I know that by the time I've gone 200 blocks in any direction, I am digging exclusively new chunks, which maximizes my odds of finding a trial chamber. That is something that I think might be handy to you, and this video hopefully was too. I know that there are a large number of people who watch my channel specifically because they also have very long-term Minecraft worlds, and I hope that you did find this video useful. If so, please do subscribe to it. Please do, the channel, I guess that is. If you could subscribe to a video, I'd appreciate that too. But consider subscribing to the channel to learn more about Minecraft Bedrock. I cover it almost every single day here on my channel, and I hope that these videos make you a slightly better informed person. And I have one last announcement to make here. This was the first of a series that I like to do before an update comes out, called Big Update Questions, answering your biggest questions about what's going on with an update. Wow, that sure does self-explain itself, doesn't it? But Big Update Questions generally is a bunch of videos. We're talking 3 or 4 or 5 uploads like we used to do back in 2014, and it's going to be happening on June the 1st this year. So this is going to be the busiest uploading day of the year, June 1. Look forward to it, mark it in your calendars, because we're going to answer your biggest update questions, and I hope you're looking forward to it, because if you're not, then I don't know. Thank you for watching either way, because I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Oh. Glad I have feather fallen.